Hello, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Night Live with me, Peter Driver, here on Pescari Fly. So, tonight is all about dry flies, rivers, and lakes. And what a show we've got lined up for you all tonight. So, I hope you're going to sit back, relax, pour a cold one, make a hot one, whatever you want to do, whatever your tipple. And we got a couple of hours here of some great fly tying, tackle talk, and a bit of crack and a bit of banter for you tonight. So I hope you all enjoy it. How you doing, Brian Kennedy? Patrick Smith's on was there. Darius, Liam Long, Tim Sullivan. Who else have we got there? Richard O'Connor, Declan Smith's on there. Was James Hope, Kieran Sherlock, Patrick McCarthy, Martin Kennedy. Richard Adams on there. Richard, how you doing? See you in Adair Springs there. Darren Fennessy. How you doing? Declan Noonan. Ken is on there with Ken Dunn. Hope you're keeping well. Ken, Ricky Woods. Great to see so many people on there. Graham Connolly. Great to see so many people on there. Hope everyone's having a great weekend. Hi, Jared Lennon. Aidan Gill is on there. Lead up to Christmas is in full flight now. We're in Santee today. Got to go see Santee today. Great old crack with the kids over in Doro there. How you doing, Nigel Haynes? John Luke is on with us there. Alan Hutton from Bonnie, Scotland. How you doing, Alan? Hope you're well. Dermot's on there as well. Dylan Roberts from Wales. Hope you're keeping well there, Dylan. And everyone's getting all set and getting all in the Christmas spirit. Saturday night, folks. How you doing, Jerry? Desmond, Sean Matter. Great to see so many people on us. Saturday night, and what a show we got lined up for tonight, folks. Dry fly night. Okay. First, want to wish you all a very happy Christmas before we go any further. And I hope everyone stays safe. Lots more cases today. I think we're in for a rocky road in the start of 2022, but let's all just try and keep safe and stay out of trouble. So tonight I'm going to be trying 3 patterns for you, okay? Now, tonight's show is probably going to go a little bit longer than normal, folks. Some people, if you have to phase out, that's no problem. Some people might be delighted to get to listen to me babble on for another bit longer, and some other people. But so, we're going to do a lovely little river fly to start with. Probably my top dry fly from last year. Haven't tied it for you yet. We got a spent caddis coming up along in a little while, which is really a fantastic little pattern. Very simple but super effective. And we got a spent mayfly, detached body spent mayfly that I haven't tied for you before, that I've been tying for the last 2 seasons, and it's been fantastic. That's coming up a little bit later on in the show. But what a lineup of guests have we got for you guys tonight and girls. The one and only Mr. George McGrath from the River Shore. George is renowned river dry fly specialist. Is going to be on here with us tying one of his fantastic little dry flies, and I fished them last year. I got a load of them off George last year. Fished them absolute lethal, folks. So George is going to be along with us in a little while. And how you doing, Irwin, Paddy Cahill, Kevin Maher? Good to see you. Seamus Kelly, I hope you're keeping well. Happy Christmas to yourself too, Seamus. So George will be on with us in a little while, and then later on in Tackle Talk we have the one and only Mr. Tom Sullivan from the west of Ireland. Tom is going to be on here. What a character, what a gentleman. Fantastic dry fly specialist on the lakes. Tom will be on with us a little later on to do a bit of tackle talk, not just a bit, a whole load of tackle talk on dry fly. And trust me, folks, if you're on watching, whatever you got planned, cancel it, because you're going to want to see Tom. Okay, Tom and George, thanks so much, guys, for coming on with us tonight and helping us out. Hi to all our YouTubers. Tomorrow this will be up live on YouTube. Unfortunately, Graham Lonigan, I know you're going to be very disappointed, but nothing to do with me, Gianluca. But Dave is not going to do the trivia tonight, unfortunately, Graham. All right, now you might think that's a great thing and you're in with a real chance now, but I'm going to do the trivia tonight. And if you thought Dave was bad at the questions, well, you're going to be kicking that Google table tonight. So I'm going to do a bit of a trivia tonight with you folks. We've got a great spot prizes here to give away. How you doing, John Ditch? Peter Waddon's on with us there. Very good, Desmond. Tom can talk. He can talk, but the one thing about Tom is, Desmond, he talks good stuff. That's what I like. I could have sat. It's pre-recorded, folks, from last night, by the way. I did it with last night with Tom, and I could have sat there for hours quizzing him and just questioning him. I'm not a lake dry fish specialist in any means whatsoever, and I learned so much last night. It's going to be brilliant. So don't forget, our Xmas show is going to be on Wednesday the 29th. Great show. We got some fantastic prizes. Not going to say too much tonight about it. Going to leave that one till after the Christmas. But Wednesday 29th will be our Christmas show. And just finally, before I get stuck into the flight time, great morning. Yeah, go on, Graham. You may open a few more windows there. Great to have you on there from Yorkshire, John Ditch. But congratulations to Tony Rooney, who was our winner of one of our Christmas hampers last week, worth over €250. Tony Rooney won it there. He came out of the draw. Fantastic response, and huge thanks to everyone for all your support, folks, your likes and shares. We really do appreciate it here. But well done, Tony. Hope you enjoy all the products. We have another hamper coming. As I said in the post, original post, there is 2 hampers. Second one's going to be held back till the Christmas show. Okay, so that's just a little bit of a teaser. What's coming up at Christmas show? Right, that's all my business. Everybody, I've got to get started in here fairly quick because we have a long night to go. He could be. How you doing? How you doing? Wayne, hope you're keeping well. He could be Kieran. He could be back in pennies. You wouldn't know. He just gave me a buzz and said, look, he can't do tonight. He won't be around, and he'll watch the show tomorrow. And wishes everyone a happy Christmas and hope you're all keeping well. So in the vice here, I got a 301 size 18. So said this is probably my number one dry fly from last year on the rivers. I started fishing this thing in a size 14 at the start of the season last year, and by the midsummer I'd gone to 18s and 20s, and I went back up then. I fished it the whole year, and it was absolutely fantastic. So I said I got a 301 size 18, just put a little bit of Piscari fly Kevlar onto the hook there, and I'm just going to take a little bit of pearl micro glint, as you've all seen me do before, and I just strip it out a bit, just break it apart a bit, just to fizzle out those ends, and we're going to add those in as a very small little tail. It was a super dry fly for me last year. So, I mean, number one, straight dry, simple little fly. Couldn't be any simpler. Bring it back up. Before we go any further, we're going to add in a little bit of Piscari fly white parapost. Just up there at the top of the fly, or top of the hook, should I say. Sorry, no. My hands are a bit choppy now this evening. I was out doing a bit of work in the garden there today. What weather have we got, folks? It was mental. Out there working in the garden there this evening, getting a few bits done where it's nice and fine. So my hands are a little bit choppy. Being lashing on the cream all day. Leave that a little bit long for the moment. We're not going to worry about that for the moment. Okay, next thing we're going to add in is a little bit of sulky Gutterman. You've all seen me use that stuff before. Sulky Gutterman, this is copper. Use an awful lot. How you doing, Billy Boland's on with us again? No problem. How you doing, Claude? Claude all the way from Canada. Hope you're keeping well, Claude. All the way from British Columbia. Myself and Claude. It's a long time since we were in Italy now, Claude. It feels like a lifetime ago since we were in Italy. Sitting back in the sunshine, this autumn sunshine, enjoying a few espressos and stuff like that. A little bit of hare's ear. I'm going to dub that on there. Thing I like about that, I don't often put wire or any kind of a heavy rib on a dry fly. I think it's completely defeats the purpose of tying a dry fly. How you doing, Dennis Goulden? Dennis is on with us there as well tonight. Hope you're keeping well, Dennis. By the way, congratulations to Hubert Smith for winning the AWOL, the last leg of AWOL. Hubert, you're doing very well there now. The old dog still has a few tricks in the up sleeve. Just don't like that, just the butt of that fly there now. It's just a little bit heavy, so I'm just going to tease out a little bit of that bear's ear there. How you doing, Sean Lenihan? Robbie Berry? I don't, Robbie, I've been asked so many times to stock it. That stuff, I tell you where I go to get that stuff now, is there's a little sewing shop on the way into Clonmel, just there beside a veterinary practice, and a little bit too much on there. Take a bit off. And I normally go in there, and they normally have a fairly decent selection. Now, I know John Walsh from Kildare had messaged me one time, God, it must be pre-COVID now, saying he found a place up in Kildare that had a good selection of it. But no, it's not a sort of a fly time material that's stocked by too many shops. But sulky Gutterman is really good stuff for ribs. Okay, that's the code. I use tons of it. Now, there's loads, like I've had that for years, and I give everyone that comes to shop has asked me, do you stock it? No, but I'll take you off a load. It is really good for ribbon dry flies, ribbon hare's ear nymphs. It's fantastic, really strong. But the best thing about it for dry is it's super light. Okay, doesn't add any weight to that fly. So I'm just going to rib up that little dry fly. No, I just clip the camera there, and we're going to secure that in. Anyone that's watching this for the first time tonight, folks, I hope you're all very welcome, and I hope you're all keeping well. We're here live every Saturday night, tying absolutely everything we can think of. A little bit of a brush out on that hare's ear dubbing. There's a small little tuft underneath that body. It's just not sitting too at me. Okay, perfect. A little bit of a saddle grizzle here. We're going to add that in there. Don't forget now, folks, we got a fantastic spent caddis coming up in a little bit. And then we got a detached body mayfly that there's a little bit of tying into it, but well worth the watch. And could be a great one for the spent caddis, of course, could be rivers and lakes. Now the one thing about this hackle is I like it kind of broad and bulky, if you get what I mean. Okay, I want it taken over at least, as you can see, it's going to be the most predominant feature of that dry fly. One turn in front of that post, just to get that post to sit up for you. Hold back any of those little barbs that might be in your way, hold back your post. And get a little bit of tension on that Kevlar, just to sink it right in there to the hook. Trim away your bar, your piece of waste off that, pinch everything back. Now this is size 18, I was tying these down to 20s midsummer, but during the spring months I was tying them on 14s and 16s. A little bit of a whip finish in there. A little hare's ear midge. So simple. You could sit down and run out 20,000 absolutely no problem whatsoever now, because I hit the camera earlier on. I was going to re-straighten that up so you can see it. And that's exactly the way it's got to look. Leave that post a little bit long at the start. And then trim it off just above the hackles. There we go. Perfect. A little bit of a brush out. And that is spot on. Little sparkle tail there. Little white post for your visibility. A little bit of a silhouette for the trout to see. Simple little hare's ear grizzle midge. Absolutely for the entire season. Thanks, Robbie. Thanks, Gianluca. Gianluca there says that Heaton's in Dublin City Centre have a full range of the sulky. Brilliant. That's great. Thanks a million for that, Lukey. How you doing, Davey? Davey Rennock's on with us there as well. Tom Ankertel. How you doing, Tom? Yeah, but that's a simple little dry fly. Simple little dry fly there. And it's Kevin Hill. How you doing? Well, how you doing? Farkas from Romania. Great to have you back on with us there. Really good question, Billy. Do you think the colour of the dry fly makes a difference? Absolutely. I think I agree with you that once you have the size and the shape, it shouldn't really make a difference. I think it depends on the conditions that you're fishing in, Billy, as well. Like, you know, we're going to do that spent caddis later on, and I think the silhouette of that spent caddis is crucial, because I'm fishing that normally, you know, heading late summer, heading into autumn, coming down to the edge of dark days. I think it's really effective. So I think sometimes it can have effect, but I think your point there, that size and shape does have a massive part to play in real effective dry fly fishing. When the trout look up, they see that silhouette. How much of the colour can they really see? We don't know. We can speculate about UV and all this kind of stuff, but we really don't know. But there's the first dry fly, my number one dry fly from last year, folks. Really simple little toy, you know, but you can see yourselves, really fishy, very light, very, very, you know, very rustic, I would say, I suppose would be the word I would say. But definitely effective and definitely one for the box. Michael Riley is also watching there from Alberta in Canada. Hope you're doing, Michael. Thanks, Neil Walker. So Robbie's on. There's a Colin O'Gara, great to see you on there. Yeah, absolutely, Colin. No messing with that one. They chomped it right from. I tied it as a spring. Thanks, Declan. I tied it as a spring pattern, something similar along the lines of a jingler. You know, big hackle. I really pulled that grizzle hackle forward to make it skate across the surface of the river and stuff like that to get a bit of notice. And then I'm fishing it all year and went right down to. So Larry O'Keefe's is the shop in Clonmel with the rib. Thanks for that, Brennan. Brilliant, great information. So there we go, folks. There's the first little dry fly tonight. I got to keep going here because we have a long night tonight to go, folks. We got two guests on with us tonight, and I don't want to be babbling on here, which I tend to do. So without a further delay, I am going to hand you over to the first guest of our night, the one and only Mr. George McGrath. Without a doubt, one of the most famous shore anglers and dry fly specialists from that region in Tipperary. George has a fantastic YouTube channel, Gundog and Fly. If anybody's been following it or watching it, there's lots of stuff up there for the shooting man and the fishing man. We've done some interviews with George over the years and known him for a long time, but top class fly tyer and really good dry fly specialist. So George tied one of his top dries for us, and sit back now for the next few minutes, watch it. I'm going to be back with that spent caddis after this. And don't forget, Tom Sullivan's going to be up with us in a little while. And then we got a spent mayfly coming up as well. So enjoy this one, folks, and I'll see you all in a few minutes.
Once again folks, welcome along to another video from Gundog and Fly. And today I'm going to be tying one of my favourite generic dry flies. It's a little fly I've been using for many years to great success, and it's not that difficult to tie. It requires a few little skills. May not be a beginner's fly, but it's relatively easy. It's a fly, like I said, I've been using for many years, and it incorporates elements from a few different flies that I've incorporated together, and I find it works really, really well on spooky and finicky trout. So be sure to stay tuned. Now, the tying of this little generic olive pattern is not difficult for anyone who has any level of experience tying flies. You might struggle if you're a complete beginner, but even at that, it's not a very, very difficult fly to tie. So I'm using a size 16 dry fly hook here, as light as you can get. This is, I think, a Camasan B400 or a B401 in size 16. And the tying thread I'm using here is a Unithread Olive 80. And I like to grab the thread nice and short and start just behind the eye. And when you grab the thread nice and short, it eliminates having to cut it with the scissors and just takes out one little job out of tying the fly. So I just lay down a bed of thread, and now I'm coming back up to roughly a third of the way back from the eye. Now this is a grizzled hen cape that's been dyed olive, and I'm going to create the wings from 2 hackle tips. Now the reason I'm using hen is hen feathers are wider than cock feathers, and they create a better wing. So I'm going to pull out 2 of these feathers, and I'm going to turn them back to back so that they curve away from each other, and that's the effect you get, the wing effect, if you like. And now I'm going to strip back some of the hackle fibre here, and that will give me something to tie in. So I'm going to put the feathers each side of the hook shank, bring my thread over loosely, grab it between my fingers, and then pull down, and that will trap those feathers. And now each turn I'm making is that direction, so that I don't disturb or upset those wings. Now I'm going to go to work on the wings. I'm going to lift them up vertically like this, tie a few tight turns in front of them, which will get them to stay vertical. Then I'm going to separate them, and I turn a thread from there, and I turn a thread from there. That's what's known as figure of 8. I'm making a figure of 8 motion through between the wings, and that will separate them and tie them in securely. And now I'm trimming out any feather fibre from between them. So as you can see here, my wings are just nice. Okay, now back down to opposite where the barb is on this hook. You may not be using a barbed hook, but you'll know where to stop, just opposite where a barb might be or actually is. Now again, I'm going to use this grizzled hen cape for the tail, and I'm just going to pull out maybe a half dozen fibres or so, and I'm going to measure them so that they're just slightly longer than the hook shank. When I have the correct measurement, all I do is swap hands, and that gives me the correct length, and I tie in that to create the tail. Now that tail is straight, if you like. If you want the tail to splay out, you just bring a turn of thread under it and pull again, and that will make them splay out like that, which will give you a little extra floatability. Now next thing is, as I've already pointed out, I use elements from different flies to create this fly, if you like. And one of the more important elements is the body colour, and I'm going to use grey dubbing. Hold on, I need to find my grey dubbing now. And here we are. Grey dubbing, which is used in quite a few flies, and in particular the Adams fly, which is one of the great generic olive patterns. So I'm going to use grey dubbing to create the body. Now, as I put on the dubbing, you'll notice that I'm tapering it. It's fine and thin here, and it gradually thickens to create the typical tapered profile of a fly. And then in touching turns, apply it. Now, if you want, you can stop at that, or you can bring the dubbing around to further separate the wings like I've done just there. And now I drop the thread just in front of the wings. Now, something I harp on about a lot, if you want to tie good quality flies, you need to use good quality feathers. And these are top quality genetic hackles. You may scrimp and scrape on everything else, but in my view it's essential to have good quality hackle to tie good quality flies. And this here is a Cree, which is sort of grizzle and red together, if you like. Red, when I say red, I mean red game, or brown, sort of coachman brown. And grizzle, these Cree hackles have sort of the silver of the grizzle and the brown of the coachman at the same time. And here's one of those feathers. And I'm just going to strip a little fibre from that feather so it exposes the stalk, and that's what I'm going to tie in here just in front of the wings. Now hold the wings out of the way and tie down securely. Make sure it doesn't escape. Now just another tiny bit of dubbing. And where's that gone? Here it is. Little tiny bit of dubbing just to build up the thorax a little. Right, here we go. That creates the thorax, and just drop the thread just there. Now with my hackle, again holding the wings vertically, one turn behind and another turn just in front of the wings. Now 2 turns is more than enough. If you're using good quality hackles like these, you definitely won't need any more. There's a tendency to overdress flies, in particular if you go and see shop bought flies. They're vastly and hugely overdressed, and they don't work because they're not very convincing to the fish. A real insect is a very fine and delicate creature, and they're not very well represented by bushy flies. This fly here is relatively light and delicate and works very well on spunky and educated trout. So that's a whip finish, and I'm just going to give it a second whip finish just for security. And that, folks, is essentially it. A generic olive that kind of represents everything in general and nothing in particular, but is very, very convincing fly for trout in all sizes, from size 22 all the way to size 12 and above. And you can use it to tie Irish mayfly patterns as well. So that's it, folks. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I hope you enjoyed tying it as well. So thanks very much for watching.
There we have it, folks. George McGrath, the one and only Mr. George McGrath. Beautiful fly tyer, great dry fly specialist on the river shore there. Love George's style of tying, really do. He's just so subtle there. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks a million, George McGrath. Don't forget, folks, George has his own YouTube channel, Gundog and Fly. Loads of stuff up there already. Interviews, fly tying, bit of shooting stuff, bit of dog work. Fantastic. Thanks a million, George, for sharing and being a friend of us here at the show. George is always very willing and helpful. Whenever time I give him a shout and say, any chance you do no fly for me tonight, George? But no, brilliant, brilliant. It's great to get so much support on the show and get these top class fly tyers and anglers to come on and give us a little bit and share their information, share their experience. You know, that's what the whole thing is about. So it's I'm just I've written a load of notes here. So say hi to Matty Cunningham, Mick Carletson was there, Michael Sexton, Keith Nicholson is on there from Kent. How you doing, Keith? Dick Croak, how you doing, Dick? I hope you're well. Thanks very much, Robbie, Colin, Dylan, Gianluca, Neil. I'm sure George appreciates all your comments. So we're going to head on now. We're going to do this spent caddis. Okay, quite a simple tie as well, but really effective. Before I do, Tom Docker's going to be coming up in a little while. Just before Tom comes up, I'm going to be your trivia master tonight, folks. I got a lovely spot prize here for somebody. So before Tom comes up, I'm going to be asking you that trivia question. So I want pens on paper. You might need a pen for that one. And it might be no harm to have a pen for when Tom comes on, okay? It's a really good interview, folks. Thanks, Darren. It's a really good interview, and you might want to take some notes. Thanks, Tom. Don't forget, folks, by the way, if you're on there, hit the share button on the stream. Great to have a few people on here tonight. Love you to hit the share button there, because if you hit the share button or comment, it puts you into the draw to win all tonight's flies, plus the ones I had to tie previously to tonight, because normally every Saturday afternoon I start getting ready for the show about 2-3 o'clock. I set up the computer, set up the lights. Most of it's already kind of set up, but I got to plug everything in, switch it on. I also tied a set of flies once, maybe twice, just to kind of have a bit of rhythm about it, and make sure I have all the gear needed up here, so I'm not having to, oh, sorry, I forgot my hacker pliers, run downstairs and get it. So I tend to tie 2 or 3 of the patterns sometimes. So to win tonight's flies, all you got to do is hit the share button on the stream. And now I know a few people were asking me over the last week or two, what kind of a setup do I do the show on and stuff like that. So I actually took a picture of it, and I'm going to put it up here for you now. And this is normally where I'm sitting in the chair. Now, I'm obviously not sitting because I'm taking a photograph, but this is normally where I'm sitting, and this is normally where I work for the live show. As you can see there, thanks, Mark. Thanks, Michael. This is normally where I'm sitting for the live show, in that chair, just there at the bottom of the screen. I got the laptop in front of me, which is my head cam. I got the webcam, which is right in front of the device, which shoots the vlogs. And then on that big screen at the back, which is a 40 odd inch TV, is where I can actually see what's going on with you guys. I got a lighting system, and as you can see, the flight time gear. It's not too bad in that picture. I must have only done 1 or 2 flies in that picture, but normally by the end of the night, that is a big goddamn mess that I have to clean up after the show. That's where I do the live show. If anyone wants to know, if anybody wants to do some YouTube videos or like that, give me a shout. I'll share what I have. Thanks to Robbie Phelan, of course, for helping us set it holding up. Thanks, Declan. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Martin. Absolutely, yeah, he does, Martin Kenny. He grows his own dub in there. George, what an angler. What an angler. So we're going to move on. Don't forget, folks, if anybody is ever looking for any fly fishing, fly tying gear, check out www.scaryfly.com. We're always here, especially in the run up to Christmas and people looking for vouchers. So what I have here for this caddis is I got a Hannick 130BL. Brian, yeah, the wife has that downstairs, Brian. Excuse me, we normally do that. So this is a Hannick 130BL size 14 dry fly hook, okay, for this particular pattern. Say it's a spent caddis. Real, a spent caddis is something. I was actually reminded about this during the week. Someone actually messaged me and said, "Oh, you must do a spent caddis sometime." I thought, why haven't I thought of that before? It's a really good pattern. Say late summertime, mid to late summer, and then going into September can be really effective, not just on rivers, but on lakes as well. And it's really, really simple. There's nothing to it. But this particular pattern, okay, I'm going to use 2 dubbing brushes here. Okay, so we got an olive, and I got a kind of an off-white would be the best way to describe it, tan. CDC dubbing brushes. Now, you can make your own if you want. It's not complicated to make your own, okay? I'm not going to make them for you tonight because we're going to be here all night as it is, okay? But I bought these 2 spools. I think these are Jan Siemens, okay? A long time ago I bought these, and these are the only thing I used for this fly, okay? See, 2 little spools of, trying to move my fingers around now to see which. It's everyone's backwards because what I see and what you see is all backwards. So there's the tan, kind of light off white, and the olive. Okay, that's what we're using for this. So once we tie in our thread, we're going to lash these in the back, secure them in. There's quite a decent core on these, so they've got quite a bit of strength. There's no need for ribbon. Okay. Now I tied this all kinds of sizes. So we're kind of heading, we started off in river dries tonight and we're kind of transferring now into kind of river and lake, something that's really good for both. Line them up side by side and then wind them up the body. And what you get is a lovely segmented body in a moment. Oh, one slip back. I have to take the white one back a second section. What you get is a lovely segmented body on that, pure CDC, gonna float like crazy. Stop a little bit short of the eye, secure in, pressure on that dubbing brush, a couple of turns over, pressure onto the thread, and then you can trim off. Okay. Get quite a few flies out of each spool. And I want to tease all those out, under and over and down the side. Okay, give them a good brush back. This fly sits beautifully in the water. Okay, and I want to trim off the top. Now you can see that nice caddisy kind of look to that. Thanks, David. Really appreciate it. Do I ever use the missing link for the spent caddis? I don't, Dave. No. That's ringing a bell with me right now at the moment, Dave. I got a lot of stuff going on through my head about tonight. But the missing link is something that is ringing a bell for me. I was looking at that during the week for some particular reason. Remind me on that there. Sometimes, Robbie, sometimes I use the Logitech for the YouTube films and or the YouTube videos. I haven't done YouTube much in the last little while. Going to get back into it now in the new year. Or sometimes I use a Nikon, or I have a Sony camcorder, which is really, really good. So what I'm going to do here is I got a little bit of dark deer hair, okay, and I like the particular dark. Yeah, they're lovely, Michael. Do you get yours, Michael, from Yancey Man as well? Is that where you got yours? So I'm going to select just enough. I'm not going to use a stacker here, by the way, folks. I want a very natural end into these, okay? And I'm going to put a small little pinch, even smaller than that, of deer hair. Just figure of 8, trap it down on top. Now, we don't need a lot of deer hair either side, okay? Now, the reason why I use deer hair is because we're going to use CDC as the actual wing here, really. But what I find is that when the CDC gets wet, it tends to flap into the body. It tends to come too close to the body, and you don't get that portrayed wing profile. Come back to Billy Boland's point earlier on as regards the silhouette, should I say, of when the trout looks up and see those flat, splayed wings, those spent wings. That if you use just CDC, let's say in the river particularly, well then the current, the different currents and stuff, can make that CDC come in tight to the body and you don't get that look. What I find is by adding a little bit of deer hair splayed out, it supports that CDC and stops it from coming in around the sides of the body, and you still get that profile when the trout's looking up at it. Okay, and you're trying to convince him to come up and take it. He wants to see that profile. So we're going to tie a little bit of CDC in there, just at a splayed angle each side. And again, as I said, I'm stopping well short of the eye of the hook. And once we've got those two in, then I'll just put a little figure of 8 in there. Not too much. I don't want to splay them out like a complete spent wing going directly out either side. I want them just tapered back a little bit and secured in. I want that fly looking very kind of I don't know what's the right word to use to describe that, but anyway, I'll think of it in a second. So a little bit of natural dark grey CDC here. 1 to 2 plumes is more than enough for me, because I want the light to come through that wing. Okay, if you use 2 or 3, sometimes it can be a bit dark, I find. I want a few extra to come through just to show the veins of that wing. So between the deer hair and the CDC, a trout looking up, it'll become quite transparent to that fish, that wing as well. So if you add in too much, and that's why we put in the CDC body, is to give that fly that support that it needs. We don't need to add in a whole ton of CDC. We got deer hair in there. Now we're not going quite the length of the deer hair, as you can see. It's just tapering in lovely to that deer hair points. We're going about 3/4 of the way to the length of deer hair and leave those deer hair tips sticking out on their own. And they go in either side. Now we're not going to do a figure of 8 on the CDC just yet. We're going to take away our waist. Just a couple extra turns of thread there. Keep it in. Okay. Now we're going to just do a quick little dubbing brush here. Good man, Tony. You're very welcome. Tony Rooney's on with us there, folks. He's just after winter hamper. He's a little bit tipsy at the moment, but sure, you're grand, Tony. That's what Saturday nights are for. That's what Saturday nights are for. Pour yourselves a cold one, folks, or a hot one, whatever you fancy. And Brian Kennedy, have you hit that second bottle yet, Brian? After missing a load of comments there, probably no, folks. But I'll get back on them later on if I do. I hope everyone's enjoying the show and everyone's all set for Christmas. Don't forget our Christmas special is going to be on Wednesday the 29th at 8:30 p.m. and we have a really nice show lined up for you this year, folks. I'm not going to give too much away, but I have already said the second Pescari fly hamper will be given away on that night. So I'm going to do a little dumb brush. So I've just split my thread and I've got a little mixture here of fox squirrel and spectre dubbing. So by a spectre dubbing. Probably was Tony. All right, Tony said there was a lot more in it than see from picture. Yeah, there probably was, Tony. But hey, look, as long as delighted you won, it's great to be able to give something back to our customers. Really appreciate everyone's support over the last year. The end of the year now, folks. New season about to begin. Thanks be to God. Hopefully we'll all be safe and well for it. But yeah, always like to hear Pescari Fly to give as much as we can back. So just spinning this here just to get a nice dubbing brush on it. Okay. Now I'm very close to the camera there, so I'll just wind it in a bit. 1 or 2 turns. Once I get into dubbing, then I'm going to split those CDCs now. I'm going to make sure one's out one side and the other one's out the other side. And with that dubbing brush, split down there now. 1 turn at the front and then come back in through them again. Hold those 2 wings back. Brush back to the eye of the fly. And now you see you get your nice natural splayed wings either side. Take your whip finish tool. Go in there. Take it away. A little bit of varnish if you want. A little bit of lacquer. Just give that little head a little bit of a brush out. I want it as rugged. I like it to say rustic. It's got to sit flat to the water. And that's underneath is going to stop that fly from sitting dead flat on the water. Especially from that dubbing brush you just put on. The last one, not the first one. Leave the CDC alone. But just in regards to this squirrel, well then take that away. And that right there is an absolute cracker of a spin caddis. You can see that underbody there now, that lovely bit of ribbon. You can see those segments coming up. See all those lovely little segments coming up through those 2 and you can see why a trout would come up and attack that. When that's sitting in the water, that CDC gets wet, it becomes really meaty. Thanks Darren, thanks Neil, thanks Brian, thanks Ram. You can see that gets really meaty. Everyone knows the CDC, when it gets some kind of waterlogged, it gets really meaty looking, and those 2 splayed wings with a bit of transparency in them, it'll tell you one thing now. Coming into the edge of the arc on the river, I fish that a lot, and you're going to get fish. You're going to get a lot of fish come up and take, and don't be afraid to fish a big, folks. Thanks Dalen, or Declan, thanks Tony. Don't be afraid to fish a big, you know, but really good fly. Simple enough tie, really good. So we're going to move on now, folks. That's going there into the pot. Don't forget, if you share the stream, you're in the pot. I'm going to do a draw tomorrow for who's going to win all these flies. That's on this card from tonight and from earlier on when I done practice. Now I'm going to take another little break. This is great having 2 people on because I get to take another little break. Going to have another little break. Go down and check on the missus herself. Thanks, Brendan. Thanks, Patrick. Going to take another little break, and I'm going to hand you over into the trustful hands of myself and Tom Sullivan. A little interview we did last night. I first met Tom in Sweden, going to Sweden, back in my very first World Championships. We spoke at length about it last night, and we reminisced over it. You know, how fantastic it was. What a team we had then. Mike Keady, Joe Trill was our captain. Mike Keady was on the team. Tom Sullivan, DJ Byrne, myself as a very young myself, I think I was 20 years of age, first one, very educational, should I say the least. Who else was on there? There was Scully from Cork. Jackie Coyne, the one and only Mr. Jackie Coyne from Connemara was on there as well. But we had a great team. We went to Lapland in Sweden the first time I came across Tom. And what an angler, what a nice guy. But Tom is, without a doubt, one of the top anglers and guides on the Corrib and the Mask. And he's a dry fly specialist. There's no doubt. If you want to talk about dry flies, lock style, well then you need to get in touch with Tom. But I had a bit of a chat with him last night, and this is a little bit of a lengthy interview, but I looked at it today and I said, you know what, I'm not cutting any of this. This all has to go up. So I sit back, folks, enjoy it, and I will see you all in a little while. Don't forget, we got a spent detached mayfly coming up after this one that you don't want to miss. Something a little bit different. So I'm going to tie that for you in a little while, but right now I'm going to hand you over for Tackle Talk, talking lock style dry fly, Mr. Tom Sullivan. Thanks a million, Tom, for helping us out tonight. Really do appreciate it. So enjoy, everyone. See you soon. Hi everybody, welcome to another Tackle Talk. So tonight's been all about dry flies. We tried a couple of dries, and we had George McGrath on us there earlier on. Now we're heading to the lakes. We're heading to the west of Ireland to meet the one and only Mr. Tom Sullivan. Tom, you're very welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Hope you're keeping well.
Hi Peter, how's it going? Good to talk to you.
How's things over in the west?
All good here now. All quiet time of the year. Quiet time of the year.
And of course, all the new restrictions coming into play now is going to make it even quieter. A quiet Christmas for everyone coming.
Yeah. Nobody out after 8 o'clock, and we don't know what's ahead of us. Fingers crossed it'll be okay for next season.
Well, that's it. Yeah, as anglers, that's what we have to look forward to, isn't it? We know that things are, hopefully we'll be able to get out and do a bit of fishing and meet up with some of our buddies and stuff. But tonight's all about dry flies, Tom, and I really appreciate the fact that you're coming on here. We know you're an avid dry fly man and one of the top guides over in the west of Ireland, and we asked you to come on here and talk a little bit about dry fly fishing. Now, for me personally, I can get by on the rivers, just get by on the rivers. But when it comes to lock style dry fly, I am way down the food chain. I've been to 2 All-Irelands on the Corrib over the last 10, 15 years. Both of them turned out to be dry fly sessions, and it was diabolical, to be quite honest. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to learn a lot here. But I suppose, Tom, before we get into the whole nitty-gritty about dry fly, tell us a bit about yourself. Tell where did it all start? Where did it all start for you?
Right, Peter. Well, I suppose all started, with my dad. My dad got me fishing. My dad was the doc and Tom Doc. He was the GP here in Cornamona. But
that's where the doc came out of. I was wondering where the doc came out of, actually.
Yeah, that's it.
Right, so right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it came from. And he was actually from Cornamona as well. And fishing was big in his family. He was taught to fish by his granddad. And he taught me to fish. And where we're living here on the shores of the Corrib, it was right at our doorstep. So from a really early age, I got to fish with him. And my mum fished as well, actually. And
oh, well, right.
Yeah, she did a bit of dapping. And her father, my grandfather on my mother's side, was a really keen fisherman as well. So, like, as they said around here, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I didn't really have a choice. Like, I was just mad. Everything was into it. So,
right.
Everything geared towards it, and mainly been born here as well, just right beside the lake. Just growing up, it was great. So yeah, from a very early age, I was out in the lake, and I was going out on the lake on my own, a boat, an engine on my own from when I was 12.
Wow.
So yeah, it was great.
Right.
So
yeah, it wouldn't be too many 12-year-olds going out in the lake on their own anymore, would there?
No, I think now of it, I think my dad and my mum had no problem, but my mum was on the water herself from a young age, because normally it'd be the mother that would be sort of worried, but she was mad keen into rowing. She used to row in the River Corrib. Yeah.
Very good.
So, but I was well drilled into me, bit of safety, look after yourself, don't take any precautions, don't take any risks. Everything I was well tutored in how to do it. But yeah, and I had a buddy that I grew up beside with me here, Chris Dixon, and he was the same age as me. And from the age of 12, every summer holidays, all we were out in the lake. Yeah,
we were the same on the rivers. I can't really remember how old it was. Yeah. But from a very young age, we were let go fish the rivers, but we were brought down plenty of times before and shown, how to
what
be
to do.
Hello once again folks, welcome along to another video from Gundog and Fly, and today I'm going to be tying one of my favourite generic dry flies. It's a little fly I've been using for many years to great success, and it's not that difficult to tie. It requires a few little skills, may not be a beginner's fly, but it's relatively easy. It's a fly, like I said, I've been using for many years, and it incorporates elements from a few different flies that I've incorporated together. And I find it works really, really well on spooky and finicky trout.
Hi everybody, welcome to another Tackle Talk. So tonight's been all about dry flies. We tried a couple of dries, and we had George McGrath on us there earlier on. Now we're heading to the lakes. We're heading to the west of Ireland to meet the one and only Mr. Tom Sullivan. Tom, you're very welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Hope you're keeping well.
Hi Peter, how's it going? Good to talk to you.
How's things over in the west?
All good here now. All quiet time of the year. Quiet time of the year here.
And of course, all the new restrictions coming into play now is going to make it even quieter. A quiet Christmas for everyone coming.
Yeah. Nobody out after 8 o'clock, and we don't know what's ahead of us. Fingers crossed it'll be okay for next season.
Well, that's it. Yeah, as anglers, that's what we have to look forward to, isn't it? We know that things are. Hopefully, we'll be able to get out and do a bit of fishing and meet up with some of our buddies and stuff. But tonight's all about dry flies, Tom, and I really appreciate the fact that you're coming on here. We know you're an avid dry fly man and one of the top guides over in the west of Ireland, and we asked you to come on here and talk a little bit about dry fly fishing. Now, for me personally, I can get by on the rivers, just get by on the rivers. But when it comes to lock style dry fly, I am way down the food chain. I've been to 2 All-Irelands on the Corrib over the last 10, 15 years. Both of them turned out to be dry fly sessions, and it was diabolical, to be quite honest. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm going to learn a lot here. But I suppose, Tom, before we get into the whole nitty-gritty about dry fly, tell us a bit about yourself. Where did it all start? Where did it all start for you?
Right, Peter. Well, I suppose all started, with my dad. My dad got me fishing. My dad was the doc and Tom Doc. He was the GP here in Carnamona, but
that's where the doc came out of. I was wondering where the doc came out of, actually.
That's it.
Right, so right, yeah.
Yeah, so that's where it came from, and he was actually from Carnamona as well. And fishing was big in his family. He was taught to fish by his granddad, and he taught me to fish. And where we're living here on the shores of the Corrib, it was right at our doorstep. So from a really early age, I got to fish with him, and my mum fished as well, actually. And
right.
Yeah. She did a bit of dapping, and her father, my grandfather on my mother's side, was a really keen fisherman as well. So, like as they said around here, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So I didn't really have a choice. Like I was just mad. Everything was into it. So
right,
it all everything geared towards it, and mainly been born here as well, just right beside the lake. Just growing up, it was great. So yeah. From a very early age, I was out in the lake, and I was going out on the lake on my own, a boat, an engine on my own from when I was 12.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was great.
Right.
So,
yeah, it wouldn't be too many 12-year-olds going out in the lake on their own anymore, would there?
No, I think now of it, I think my dad and my mum had no problem, but my mum was on the water herself from a young age, because normally it'd be the mother that would be sort of worried, but she was mad keen into rowing. She used to row in the River Corrib. Yeah,
very good.
So, but I was well drilled into me, bit of safety, look after yourself, don't take any precautions, don't take any risks. Everything I was well tutored in how to do it. But yeah, and I had a buddy that I grew up beside with me here, Chris Dixon, and he was the same age as me. And from the age of 12, every summer holidays, all we were out in the lake. Yeah, fishing.
We were the same on the rivers. I can't really remember how old I was. Yeah. But from a very young age, we were let go fish the rivers, but we were brought down plenty of times before and shown, how to
what
be
to do. What you didn't do.
Exactly. Yeah. But wasn't it a great childhood to grow up, Tom? Wasn't it a great way to grow up?
It was great.
Wouldn't trade it in for anything. Yeah. All them summer days. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was like sort of, when you think of it, we were given a bit of responsibility at an early age. Yeah. And, we had to, mind it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did the whole guiding thing, Tom, and all that sort of really start for you? Or when did you start seeing some kind of that this is something that you want to kind of do a bit more full time? And was it from a young age that you always had this passion? I know a passion to fish, but maybe a passion to get into it a bit deeper.
I know. I sort of fell into guiding by accident. I came back. I was abroad for a year. I'd left college. I was abroad for a year, and I came back to Carnamona. I was back a couple of weeks, and Roy Pierce, Grasshopper Cottage, who had a fishing lodge down the road, came up to me in the pub and he says, "Are you doing anything tomorrow?" I said, "No." And he said, "Can you bring 2 guys out fishing?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And that's where it started from.
Right.
And it was completely by accident. And I took the 2 lads out, really enjoyed the day. And transpired they were hanging around for a couple more days. We got on well that day. So I think I had them for 3 or 4 more days and then just started from there.
And of course,
really
now
you're
a full-time guide now.
Yeah.
At it full-time. Yeah.
At a full-time, been at it well, off and on. I've been back in and out of the tackle trade for a few years.
Right.
Been on the road, been reps for a couple of companies.
And who are you with now at the moment, Tom?
I'm with Fulling Mill at the moment. I'm the
Very
Irish
good,
agent
yeah.
for Fulling Mill.
Good company.
Yeah, which is
got some nice stuff,
great.
yeah.
Really good company. Some really good products, some really good flies. So yeah, I'm with them at the moment. I'm the Irish agent for them.
Very good.
Between that and the guiding, and I do a wee bit of farming as well. Do a
Oh,
small
good
bit
man.
of farming.
Just in your spare time.
Yeah.
Very good. So how was the last season or 2 seasons for you on the lake over there in the west, over in Corrigan?
Yeah. First thing I have to mention is COVID, because
that
really just disrupted everything. So fishing wise, like last season, fishing wise, quite good early on. Then we got the duck fly, which is the end of March. That started off really well. It was looking going to be great. Now, I was only fishing for ourselves because I wasn't guiding, because we were still in lockdown. And then a storm came in at about, I think it was 23rd, 24th of March. And we got 2 or 3 days of really high winds. Then the wind switched around to northeast and the temperature dropped.
That's right. I remember,
8 or 9 degrees, and it just killed everything for another week. And interesting, because I was looking back at my diary before I got on this evening, and just seeing like how the year gone for me. And I see just in the first week in April, the only bit of sport I had then was to dry flies in the evening with duck fly.
No way.
Because what happened was, during the cold weather, the flies were still hatching, but they were just waiting on the trees.
Okay.
The colder weather, they're more reluctant. And then as April came in a bit after the first week, just started to warm up a little bit. So they started going back onto the lake in the evening time. And it was great. You go just pull into the slick somewhere, calm of an island of an evening, in the afternoon, go out at about 5:30. And the next thing is just
sipping away.
And then May started off really good. Fantastic fishing. And then the lockdown stopped and we could bring people out about halfway through May. But that coincided with it sort of petered off. So it was okay. It was okay. But what really killed the rest of the year for us was when we got that heat wave.
Yes. Yeah.
And after that, I don't know what it did with us. Really don't know what it did, but like we kind of good conditions even after the heat wave was gone, and like the water temperature had even gone down. But just fish didn't.
The trout just never. Yeah, we were same on the rivers. Yeah, we found similar.
Were you? Yeah.
Rivers. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once that heat wave came, sure, the rivers are shallow and they lost so much water, and fish became so lethargic and sick, and we just stopped fishing them. You know, we were just under extra stress, so we just stopped. Yeah.
No, you couldn't. I went out one day in the middle of the heat wave, and I had the Garmin fish finder on the boat. It was the day out in the sun, and the water, it was 23.8 when I left. The water temperature at the top degrees Celsius, and by 3 o'clock it hit 25.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's warm.
25 was just ooh.
Yeah.
Now then, when that all went and everything, even by September, the water temperature was down to 17, 16 degrees Celsius, which isn't critical or anything, but just, I don't know, it was hard going. It was really hard going. Yeah. But it was a busy year. A lot of Irish people just really wanted to get out fishing.
Yeah.
So
after the lockdowns and stuff like that, people just wanted to get out in the water and have a day out, if nothing else. You know?
Yeah, no, the fishing was tough, but still there was fish to be caught.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's like a lot of the loch fishing, it can be rewarding. You put the work in, and sometimes wheedle a couple of fish out in a hard day. Yeah. It's almost more satisfying than catching
Absolutely.
that. You know it yourself.
Totally agree with you, Tom. Totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And then I suppose coming down to the dry fly end of things now, so I'm a complete novice here. Coming down to the dry fly things, just when you were talking there about dry fly and the duck fly and talking about season, and you're just a point you made there in relation to wiggling out those couple of tough trout, like how important is, or how, is dry fly something that an angler should consider as an option most of the season through, Tom, to get a tough trout, or to, during the duck fly, during the tail end of the season, or in the high summer, is dry fly something that needs to be, there as a part of your arsenal?
Yeah, the way I look at it, once the first hatch of fly has happened on your water, whatever it is, once that has happened, from then on, I think you can start thinking of always be thinking of duck fly. With us, it's the duck fly, which is it's a chironomid, it's a buzzer, okay, and that hatches from the middle of March, around Paddy's Day. So once that happens, that means there are going to be flies on the surface of the water.
Yeah.
So look, it's a simple equation.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to. It's not going to be that it's a fail-safe method of catching fish, but you're asking there, should it be there as part of your?
Should it be considered? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, just in talking about there from this season just passed, like I easily caught way more fish on dries, the duck fly this year, than I did on buzzers, which would normally, the last couple of years, buzzers had beat everything hands down for numbers of fish that you catch. But no, it was the dries. So it's got to be there. You've got to be prepared to fish it. And from then on, let's say, take for example the Corrib or the Western Lakes. So just say it for that. So middle of March, you've duck fly. So you've that happening up until early April. From April, you've olives, the lake olives hatch. Okay, so that's straight on from mid-April on to May, and clues in the name with May. We have mayfly, right?
Yeah.
So you've dry fly for then. You've also got the Campto buzzer, which happens in April as well, which is the daytime buzzer, which actually not as good for dry fly action as the duck fly, in my mind, but you can't discount it. You've always got to have a couple of patterns just in case. So that covers you up to May. Then in June here in the Corrib, and then on we have the canis. Early morning canis.
Delightful canis.
Yeah. And like that's pure dry fly. Of all the hatches, I mean that's probably
how small are you going on your canis, Tom? How small would you go on the canis in the lake?
I go 18-20s.
Right, okay.
I get a couple of, I should have one here handy. I'll be getting them there while I'm going on. So that's June, right? Normally daytime fishing in June is tough enough, but you still get an odd hatch of mayfly for during the day, but during the morning there you have your canis. Now, I didn't mention the mito buzzer there, which is my favorite dry fly fishing. It's the one I love. And that's basically evening time buzzer fishing. We call it the mito buzzer here.
Right.
And you get it from the end of April to early June. Basically, it hatches in calm, sandy bays at about 9:30 in the evening. Starts about 9:30, reaches a crescendo by about 10:30, 11, and is finished by 12 o'clock.
Wow.
And it is my favorite fishing of all the dry flies, the one I love. And you try and position your boat to the last bit of light on the horizon. And next thing all you hear is
magic.
It's magic. I used to have a dog, gun dog, and if I couldn't see the fish, I just look at Bilbo and he'd go like that. I just watch where his nose was going. It's fab. And then when I lost
fantastic.
When I lost him when he passed away, the next year I went out, I missed him. Because he was with me for about 5 or 6 years doing it. Yeah, it was class. So that's another form of dry fly fishing. What are we at there? I think we're at
5, 6. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And you're still the whole back end of the season to go.
Yeah, and then you're into July, sedge. Daytime sedge. The Welshman's button if you're on Loch Mask. Normal sedge that we get here on the Corrib as well. Forgetting your evening time, green peters. Right? So you have the sedge right through. Also here we also get a second hatch of mayfly. in around the
Right.
lakes here
Yeah.
in Carabamask in July. So you're looking all of July, August. You're looking at the sedges and daddy longlegs terrestrials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In September.
Now, September, I always find can be hit and miss. We do get olives again,
Right.
and you do get sedges, but I prefer August for my dry fly fishing, just personally. But
Yeah.
that said, I wouldn't say to somebody, "Oh, don't use dries in September."
Yeah.
Never think that, because they can come on. You can get a hatch of sedges anytime. You can get a hatch of olives in some places.
Of course.
Be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared.
So fishing, so dry fly is something that should be considered through, as you say,
All the time.
once that first hatch comes on the lake in April.
Yeah.
Then that's, you should be considering.
End of March.
dry fly.
I
End
got
of
fish
March.
in the dry just a day or two after Paddy's Day.
Yeah. And when it comes to tackling up, you were mentioning a few things there about being prepared and being ready for the dries. When it comes to tackling up for your dry fly setup, Tom, in general, what kind of rod lines are you kind of setting up there for your typical
Okay, yeah.
day on the
Right.
dries?
Now, because, and we'll get into this, there is, even within dry fly fishing now on the locks, there's different styles of dry fly fishing, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
you will alter your tactics accordingly. But basically what you're looking at is, first of all, you've got to have a slightly lighter lake rod, okay? By lighter, I mean AFTM rating, okay? Your standard, let's say, wet fly rod for the locks is you're looking at a 7 weight, 10 foot, okay? That's what you need, because it's got to be able to take a sinking line, an intermediate, a slow intermediate, a fast intermediate, DI3, DI5, okay? So, 5 weights and 6 weights don't handle these sinking lines.
No.
Which you can be using. So basically you're looking at 6 weight, 5 weight, 4 weight.
Okay.
Now, what tactics do you use? I have 3. When I was coming on talking about dry fly rods, I was just thinking, I use 3 different rods for dry fly fishing on the lake. Okay.
Right.
So I'll tell you what they are, and I'll tell you. Right. The 10 foot for 6 weight is the one I use the most often. Okay.
Okay.
The 10 foot for 5 weight is my favorite rod and the nicest rod. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And probably the best all rounder. Okay.
Right.
But I'll tell you why the reason I use the 6 weight more is if you're out in windy conditions, as you will be, let's say for mayfly or for olive time, and there's a good wave blowing and you're out and there's wind lanes and whatnot, and a fish rises out to your left, you've got to punch a line out to him.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 weight line. Okay. It can be done, but it doesn't have the poke. Sometimes it's awkward, particularly if let's say you're up at the top of the boat, the fish moves that way. You're not swiveling. So you need sometimes rod with a little bit of poke in it. And
sometimes you need to lift a lot of line off the water too, and the 6 will probably get that there as well. Wouldn't it?
6 weight does that. So 6 weight is probably better in that regard. The 5 weight I prefer because I can fish finer tippets with it.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
And I can
Softer
vary.
Rod,
so it's a softer rod. I can go down. I can fish. I can go down to 5x and 6x with that.
In diameter, what's that in diameter, Tom? What's...
Okay, yeah, I had that there because I've switched over to, I know about you, I've switched to 2x and 3x now. Okay, I'll just show you 4x here in diameter. I'll give it in mils. It's 0.185.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and that's the one I'm using, that's a 6.5 pound. Okay.
Right.
All right. Yeah, I'm just easier. I've switched over to 2x, and there's a bit of a problem there still with fishermen because you'd be talking, oh geez, I was on 6 pounds. And I'd say, well, no, I was on 2x or I was on 4x. Oh no, I was on 6 pounds. And for one another, we were actually both on 6 pounds.
Right, yeah. Well, for us on the rivers, it's mostly diameter. We go by everything by diameter. It's either 0.12, 0.10, 0.14. It's all diameter versus poundage. Yeah.
So let's say the 4x there that I use quite a lot for my, let's say my olive dries, that's 0.17. Okay. And go through it there, was it now 6x, which I'd use I'd go down to 6x for canis, and 7x, which I have here, is 0.13 and 0.11.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So, but back to there. All right. So they're the 2 rods I use. Now I also use a 9-foot rod for 5 weight or sometimes a 4 weight. And that's when I'm only using a single fly, and generally when it's completely flat cam conditions. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason I use a 9-foot for the single fly is generally it's not a nice rod and it's good and accurate with one fly. 2 flies on a 9-foot rod, you can't space them that as far apart as you can on a 10-foot rod.
Of course. Yeah.
Now, for that, those who aren't aware with the lock style dries, quite often we use more than one fly.
Okay, right. I was going to ask you that question. Yeah, is it 1 or is it 2 you would use? Yeah.
Some use 3, and I've seen 4 used, Peter.
Wow.
I've seen 4 used now.
I'd spend the whole day in the boat just untangling those 4 flies.
I mean,
get fishing.
it looks yeah, well, and when they do,
are you fishing those? Let's just a point that just something ahead. You know, say when you're pulling a team of flies, you've got to get that team of flies working nearly almost together for a certain reason. When you're putting up 2 dries, is there a rationale with the 2 dries that I'm going to put that dry up as an indicator, or that dry up as a sider, or that dry up as something that's going to attract the fish, but it's the other fly that's going to catch them? Is there something similar to that? Yeah,
well, generally, I always like the point fly to be a fly I can see.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. If you have 2 flies and one is going to be easier to see, then put the one that's the easiest to see on the point.
All right, okay.
The one that's more difficult to see, because what can happen is, at least if you can see your point fly, between you and that point fly is the other fly. You may find it hard to see, it may be smaller, but you will see disturbance, you may see the fish taking it. Okay?
Okay, yeah.
And it needn't always be the biggest fly.
Right.
I'm still here. Just my wolves now. And my wolves here, these are my box of mayfly wolves, right?
Right.
I'll just show you these patterns. Another thing that's really important with your dry fly fishing is light conditions, okay? And what the color of the horizon is ahead of you, okay? So there are days that when you throw out, now we use wolves, and I generally dress them all with hair wings, all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see that guy. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. That's dark tan snowshoe on that, okay?
Okay, right.
There are times when the water is a milky color that will stick out and you will see it no problem. The next thing it'll go bright, you won't see it. So you put this guy on.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? That's one of my own. That's Doc's calfing. And that's a calf hair wing tail. So basically, if you look at them, their bodies are very similar. So basically what I'm saying, what's the tactics? You're asking there about the tactics. Yeah, it's the sighter, the one you see better on the point. Now, it may be that as the course of the day changes, the conditions change, the lights change your pattern. Do change your pattern. Because some of the takes can be, remember, like, this is the beauty of the dry fly fishing. Here's the 4. Like dry fly fishing traditionally on the lakes in Ireland, it was done on two hatches of fly, spent gnat and green peter.
Yeah.
And that generally was evolved, calm conditions out. But it has changed since then now. Right, and with dry fly fishing a big wave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big wind. Yeah. So some of the takes you won't see them. You just see some. So that's why it's really important to see like them. See up against the black there now.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. It's very similar to river dry fly fishing. You know, we'd have when I'm clean camera fishing, I could have a dozen of the same clinks with all different posts.
Yeah.
Because silver water, dark water, lights, cloud cover. It's the very same principle as what we use on our rivers as well. You've got to be able to see those dries.
You could be fishing a riffle inboards with background where there's trees. And it's dark and something's going to stand out, whereas you go out into the open water and the next thing you won't see it.
Same thing.
Exact same thing there. Yeah. So what I'm saying, like, it's not always the biggest fly. Generally, as a rule, if I'm fishing 2 different sizes of flies, let's say, for example, if there's both mayflies and olives, right? You're out in early May, and both mayflies and olives hatching, and fish are taking both of them. Then I put the mayfly on the point and the olive up. Because the bigger one at the point. But like any rule, don't stick with it hard and fast.
That's it. There's always room for evolution. Yeah,
there is.
Yeah. So you've got your rods, then you're fishing obviously floating lines. Is there anything particular about your fly lines that you choose one over another, or is there something? No, it's just a good floating line, whatever.
Just a good floating line. And then with the tip of material, I've switched back to fluorocarbon for my dries for most of the work.
Right. Do you taper, Tom? Do you taper, or use tapered leader at any stage, or is it just straight off the fly line?
I do taper occasionally. I'll taper, let's say, for my setup for caddis fishing.
Right.
Is taper cast, right? Down to the ring, and then I rub. I have the finer material off it. If it's very calm and I'm fishing a single fly, I'll use a tapered leader.
Right.
But on normal west of Ireland conditions,
You've got to
I
win.
don't think you really need it.
Yeah.
I really don't. Also, as well, quite often when I've run the rods of the boat, one rod will be set up for wet fly. The dry fly rod, I might want to switch to buzzers or to nymphs fairly quick.
Okay,
so it's a
right.
floating line on it, so I can just take the cast off. Rather, my taper cast is with a needle knot.
Yes.
Right. So to put a buzzer cast on is kind of complicated. Yeah, you really can't. You want to put your buzzer cast straight to the fly line. So for that reason, I don't use as many taper cast as often as I would. But when I feel the need is there, when it's very calm, and when conditions are that you want to be a bit more accurate, and still you want a good turnover, good presentation, yeah, I'll go for it. But like if there's a nice force forward wind blowing and you're fishing down the line from a drifting boat and it's out ahead of you and there's wind lanes and there's white off the way, you don't really need. I mean, for example, like some of the I use 2x. I'll tell you what's 2x now. 0.23.
Wow.
I will use. Right, because if you've got a force 4, force 5, which is what you're talking about, a 25-kilometer wind.
Yeah.
Right? If you've got a 25-kilometer wind, it's a size 10 fly.
Yeah.
They're not. I will always go with what you get away with. All right.
That's a very good point, and I remember it's actually. Yeah, talking to a Spanish guy, David Arquet, a couple of years back up in the north of Ireland, and we were talking about tippets, and he made a point that really stuck out to me, and we were talking about diameters, what can you fish? And he said that very same point to me, very important. He said, Peter, always use what you can get away with. Always use what that day, the largest tippet that day will allow you to get away with.
I think so, yeah.
That's a really good
largest one you get away with.
Yeah. And so you were just saying there that you've switched over to fluorocarbon, back to fluorocarbon now, Tom, have you?
Yeah, I degrease. I degreased. I've used both. I've the stuff you get. I make up my own stuff as well. And I find once you degrease fluorocarbon, it's grand, and it does sink that bit quicker. Okay. It does actually. Now, the thing is though, there are times you want to watch it. If the wave goes any size at all with fluorocarbon, you'll actually get drag on your fly in the lake.
Okay.
So basically, how you get it is, okay, if you imagine there, you see that's the water and your fluorocarbon sinks below. But as the wave rises, that's just the top. Fluorocarbon is pulled away. Your flies are been lifted, but the drag of the fluorocarbon will pull them, and you'll actually see your flies skating down. Okay? And that's not a natural drift for mayflies, from fishing on a river. A mayfly does not create a V wake after.
Yeah, absolutely,
So if it's a windy day or I'm out in a big wave, I'll use copolymer. But more often than not, for a lot of conditions, I'll use fluorocarbon. For the simple fact that degrease it once and it cuts through fairly fine. Now, people have said to me, but it sinks, it's going to pull on your flies even in calm conditions. But here's the thing, you shouldn't. If your leader is pulling your fly down in calm conditions, it's out there too long. You should have it well gone by then.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that. Yeah. How long are you leaving it on the water, Tom?
Right.
In general.
I'll say, and I'm very conservative here, never have it longer than 30 seconds. All right. And I've been very nice there. I'm very nice.
Is that 30 seconds if you're fishing blind or if you're covering trout? If you're covering a rising trout, how long will you give him? Or fishing blind? Is there a difference, or are you just on average?
Okay, 30 would be blind. If you're covering a fish, I give them 10, 15 seconds.
Right.
To be honest there. And then I'd move somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah. If ever you're covering a fish, just think of that. And if you're covering a fish on the lake, I think the stands with wets as well, right? You're better off to be a meter short and there immediately. than
Okay.
that extra false cast to be right on his nose.
Right.
Because you got to think the fish is still up, and like he's up there for a reason. He's up hunting. He's up eating. Now, if what you have on is representing what he's after, and you get it in his window quick enough,
He'll come for it.
yeah. Whereas if you do, and then you do another false cast, he could be,
Yeah.
right.
Great point. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
You know, so I always say, I've said that to lads in the boat, you're better off to be a meter or two short, but in his window, rather than spot on, but 5 seconds later. Yeah. But back to on the blind then, 30 seconds. Like if I'm competition fishing on dries, I'll actually count
Right.
how long I leave my flies on. Yeah, 15 seconons in one place. Basically,
And you just fanning around, Tom. You're fanning around, just covering water.
So let's say if I'm fishing, I'd go up to 2 o'clock there, 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004. And I don't cast too far. That's another thing about guys. Oh yeah. It's a big problem with guys.
Try to put it out of sight.
Yeah. Now that's grand and wets when you're pulling. Because here's the thing, when you're pulling with wets at 20 meters, you're in touch. You're in touch. You know, you're pulling, you're in touch with the flies. So if fish takes, you're going to feel everything. If you've chucked out over 20 meters from a drifting boat, and then you're trying to twiddle to keep in touch with it, there's going to be a snake in the line, right?
Yes.
So you don't know how much boat is hopping up, boat is moving towards the fish takes. You're going to have to, it just makes it more difficult.
Right.
And it's like anything else, keep it simple. If the boat is drifting, you're going to come onto that fish anyway. So my guys, don't fish too long a line. 10 to 15 meters is plenty.
Yeah, and you're just keeping in contact with that dry fly, then keep in direct contact with that dry fly. Is there an occasion when you would actually put a little tweak into that dry fly? Purposely? No.
For browns, no.
No. Stagnant?
No.
Dead drift.
For browns, no. I have an occasion. I did stockies like a tweak. Yeah, and dries. Definitely. Browns, nah. On occasion with sage, right?
Right.
You know, pull it back. Now another thing as well, the mito buzzer at night time, that works. But then the natural skates across the top. Okay. So I have done it on mito buzzer where you just like this and you just give it a draw like that, a pull. The next thing the fly shoots across the top. Okay.
Right.
But for mayfly, for olives, no. Daddy longlegs, not really. But sedge, yeah. Sometimes what you can do, if a fish rises and nothing happens, just start to retrieve. Slow retrieve.
Okay.
Yeah. Very slow retrieve. Don't strike.
Right.
Don't strike. That leads me to another thing. Long line and striking too quick.
Right. Do you give him a second, 2 seconds?
Yeah.
Right. Let him take it down. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Funny, we're talking there.
Most river anglers find it very hard to do that because we strike. We say you've got to be striking that fly before the fish even has it in his mouth on a river.
We were talking about because it was a European Championship and I was in Slovenia. We were talking about when I was on the phone to you, and it was in the guide that was there, and I was going up the river, and it was just a practice day, and the fish were coming, and I was doing exactly what I was in the lake, and the guy gave out stink to me, and he goes, "You're way too slow." I said, "But I'm catching them." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "I know you are, but you're still way too slow." I said, "Should I be quicker?" And he said, "Yeah, but by far." And I said, "Okay, right." But it was interesting. I was catching them, but I remember chatting with you about that as well. That you got to give them time. A lot of the time, what you're seeing on the surface is you're only seeing the fish beginning to take your fly.
Okay, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, that's very good. Yeah.
That's all you're seeing.
Yeah. The beginning.
So if you strike, if you lift your rod like that, you pull the fly out of his reach. Okay. So, your fly could be here and what you're seeing is that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely,
just hold on for a second or two. Yeah,
Yeah.
just hold on for a second or two. Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Yeah. So when it comes to effective dry fly fishing, Tom, in your professional experience, what's some of the core essential processes that you would factor into your dry fly setups, the way you approach things, the way you? I have this theory of processes and systems that we use to complete our fishing on rivers, and I analyze a lot of that. Would you put any kind of, when it comes down to the detail end of it, what's the real niggly detailed stuff that is just a must that you've got to focus in on there when you're out dries?
Yeah, I suppose I would really. Yeah, I know exactly. I'd probably do things like that in my head. All right. If I'm going out dry fly fishing, well, first of all, like anything else, and we just discussed in there, you have to have your outfit just perfect.
Okay.
Right? You have to have everything. That goes without saying. I know that sounds simple, but you have to have that prepared beforehand, right? For example, if I was going out Mito fishing at night time, I want to make sure I have everything right, from line, reel, down to the pattern I've on. When I'm going out, then I mean, there's things like, would you include like location, right? All of these things have to be done before. Now, how do you find that out? Okay, that's grand for me living here. Somebody else coming down. Well, that's one thing. You can get a guide, you can chat with lads that have been out, but find out. The grapevine, go on social media, find out what's happening. Learn a bit what the flies you're looking for. I mentioned there about Mito buzzers. Mito buzzers like it's not calm, but shallow sandy bays. Right? Take a chance, find out for yourself. Yeah, find out that, things like that. We're going for olives, the observation, back to the observation. First Irish team I qualified, which we're talking about, I got through on account of seagulls. I needed one more fish, and we saw seagulls moving in Ballycurran Bay. We were well out at 5 o'clock in the evening, and they come on to a hatch of olives. Right? So I know it's a simple thing with observation, but yeah, that's really important.
And how important is lining up the drift, Tom? So just before, about 2 hours ago, a friend of mine rang. He was looking to get a bit of stuff. You know him because you've bought with him a few times. Declan Doyle from Dublin. You know Declan?
Oh, yeah.
So I was chatting to Declan, and we're just having our usual pre-Christmas chat and all the pleasantries and stuff. And I was telling Declan when I'm going to be talking to Tom, not no shorter, because Declan had mentioned to me before that he'd been out with you a few times. And Declan said, one thing I love about Tom, he says, I love about fishing with Tom, is that you will be there fishing away in the dries, and that Tom will hand you a fly, and he'll say, put this up now, and this will get you trout, and it did, or whatever. But he said, you're always watching ahead the drift. You're always, a step ahead, not watching the drift. That's necessarily, this is what Declan was explaining to me, not watching the drift exactly where the fly is, but maybe a bit further on. Where are we drifting into, and what to be ready for? How important is lining up that drift? I know an awful lot of it is experience too. You said you live near there, you know the drift really well, but like how important it is to be setting up that drift right on the dries.
It's really important. Yeah, a lot of it is experience, but we all have fishing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're thinking ahead. You are thinking ahead. You're looking at what's happened. If there's a lot of boats out, you're looking where a boat hasn't gone, right? Okay. You're looking at things like the gulls, what I said there. Okay. You're looking at showers. You're looking at a change of a wind. Let's say the wind suddenly changes, and you're thinking, oh, right. Suddenly that point is going to come to pass. Remember once, actually, once on Loch Mass, there was 4 boats ahead of us drifting onto an island, and the wind, it was Corrigan Dovo, and the wind was north, and 2 boats went to the left and 2 boats went to the right. And there's quite a flat shore. It was about 40 yards wide. I said, sure, the hell of it, we'll just drift straight on into it. That's right into it just to see. And one of the lads picked up fish because each of the other boats had pulled away. So basically what I was thinking was fresh ground that the other boats hadn't covered. So you'd be thinking like that, be looking like that. Yeah. What would I be thinking? You're always thinking ahead. You're thinking of the next drift. You're working out. You're thinking, all right, the wind has switched a bit southwest now. Right, that point over there, it's suddenly going to come into play. Do you know?
How long between moving? How long would you give a spot before you start maybe doubting it or thinking it's just not on here and this move? Or in dry fly fishing now, is dry fly fishing something you should decide, or through experience, right? There's going to be a hatch of olives here. we're just going to stick it out here for the day till the trout come on? Or for dry fly fishing, are you buzzing around trying to find those rising fish?
No, for certain hatches, you'll stick in the areas, right?
Right.
You will stick in the areas, and you will stick it out. Sometimes it mightn't come to fruition, but you
of course,
just take a
absolutely,
chance because you know the areas, and particularly if a hatch has been on for a day or two, it generally stays on there.
Right.
Going around searching for rising fish can be
Time consuming.
time consuming. And another thing as well, then the opposite of that, and I've been guilty of it, and I hate when I do it. Never leave rising fish.
Okay, right, yeah.
Never, seriously, and I've done it. You know, if there's fish rising,
stay there.
Stay there. Seriously. All right. There are times that you could go. They could be easier someplace else. They could be bigger, but generally, if there's fish rising, unless they're proven to be really difficult during a shallow bay and they're very spooky and you can't get near them. All right. But if there's fish rising, you're getting a bit of action.
And here's the thing I really wanted to ask you about. When you're seeing fish rising, is there a different type of a rise of a trout that determine what dry fly you would put on?
Yeah. I mean, like we used to see a lot of the time. There's a lot of rises that you're seeing that they're not even the dries.
Okay.
Quite often they're taking an emerger.
Right. So they're coming above it and down. And...
Yeah. Like there's a classic case here. We know it in the olives here. It's when they take there's a certain stage at the adult olive when they're taking it. And I think it's when all of the fly is above the water and it's a splashy rise. And you'll see it from a distance. And you'll be in the boat and then you'll see a couple of boils. And next thing further down, you'll see in the wind lane, quite often in the wind lane. And by the way, wind lanes are really important for dry fly fishing.
Right. You're concentrating on the wind lane if you see it.
Yeah, if you see wind lane. I'm jumping now. Right. Olive rise,
jump,
taken from the top. Now, jumping on, while I've discussed wind lanes there, wind lanes, basically, they're forms of water current on a still water. So basically, when wind blows, right, it moves the top section of the water ever so slightly. As you know, from a river, water doesn't move in uniform.
Yeah.
So what happens in wind lane, water gets dragged in together. And that's why it's a foam getting there. Right. So the bit on the top, if foam's getting dragged in, so does food. Right? So that's why quite often you'll see it. Olive is a great time to see it.
Yeah.
Olive time. The olives get stuck in these wind lanes and the fish know that. The fish is a wild animal. Fish has to live to eat. Right? So he has to go to the place where he's easiest going to get the food from. So, but quite often when you see these splashy rises on the olive, it's in wind lanes. You see them way out. You see them 200 yards away. Yeah, real. Always a splashy rise. So you know from that. So there are different types of rises. There's gentle takes. There's the sub-emerger boil. So yeah, and you get used to them.
So by knowing your rises, it will help you determine what to catch fish on. Being able to identify your different behaviors of fish.
If you're lucky enough as well to see the dorsal fin of the fish, it'll tell you which direction he's going.
Right, I get you. Right? Yeah.
Now, if the wind is strong, as a rule, the fish move upwind.
Right.
Right. And I once said in the boat, I said to the guy, no, I said, you want that now? I said, the fish, they always move upwind. And your man looked at me and says, no, they don't. I said, they do always move upwind. I says, what happens when they run out of lake? Yeah, I said, you know what I mean? I said, well, no, he said, so basically, yeah, he caught me. But what you're saying is, because the food is coming towards them, they're facing towards it, right?
Right.
So if they're going to move at all, it will be to intercept the flies as they're coming towards them. That's when the flies are getting blown along the top of the surface.
Right.
Right. So generally, if I was to cover a fish, we're on about that whether blind fishing or not. I like to fish 2 flies. And I like to fish, this is really Irish. I've been saying meters all the time now. And now I'm going to go, I like to fish my flies 8 feet apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're 8 feet apart.
8 to 10 feet apart.
And how long is the back of your fly line then, Tom?
My cast for, let's say, my standard 2 fly cast would be about 16 feet, 16 to 17, 18 feet maybe. Yeah, I like to. Standard one, nice grand simple one is 8 feet, 8 feet, untapered, straight for let's say a nice breezy day on the olives and the mayflies, where I know I'm going to be fishing down the wind lanes in front of me. Okay, so 8 feet, 8 feet. Might go a bit more, but basically, then if a fish rises in front of me, and I can cover it, I try and get the point fly onto the rise. So if the fish has been stationary, he's still there. That fly will cover him. If the fish has been moving up, the dropper is going to intercept it.
Get you, yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's why some guys like
so some lads fish tree for that reason, that they're covered the fish.
Yes.
The
Yeah,
potential
that's
of
why.
moving the fish. Yeah.
And you will definitely get away with 3 on a windier day.
Right. Do you have a preference to go for small dries, or I know as a tyer I get asked for a lot of lake dries, and some guys say, "Oh no, I like my lake dries big because I'm on a big lake and I'm fishing for big trout." Have you a preference to go small, or what's?
No, it's basically it's match the hatch. It's match the hatch. Whatever's out there at the moment at that time, match the size of that, even if you're not getting the color. So if there's size 10 mayflies around, go for them. If it's size 14 adult duck fly going back onto the water, go to size 14 dry duck fly, palomino. If there's daddies around, size 8 long shank daddy hog, no problem. They'll take it. Sometimes during the summer, I could go that way. I'd go really big, something silly, because they'll take grasshoppers, they'll take like that. But generally, it's match the hatch.
Right.
Try and get it on the size, and quite often as well, it's a bit like what they say about rivers. When you get a lot of fish rising and they're not taking a fly, do go down in size then. Do go down in size. That can work. Sometimes you're fishing a pattern that's too big, and what's happening is they're coming up to it, and there's something just not right with it. They're sensing something wrong, and they're splashing at it or whatever. So
one of the changes you would make if in that situation you would drop a size.
Just drop a size. Yeah.
Okay. That can make.
So let's say, for example, I'll say olives again. If I had it was a bright day and I had a nice golden olive on because they were looking golden, but they just weren't taking it right, I'd go down in size in it. So maybe I might be on a 12 and I go, I'll try a 14. Yeah, but generally I generally would try and stick with what's out there, go for the size of it. Right. It happened to me on con once years ago, fishing at comp, and to me the mayflies looked like 10s, but in con they use mayflies a lot smaller.
Right.
And and it was a good lesson to me. There was a poor trainer on the boat with me. Fair play to him. He said, "No, you're too big," and just down a boat. And now fair play to him. Yeah, and put it on, and straight away the great fish for Connie was about 3 pounds.
Oh, lovely.
So, nice. And just goes, and there's something in now, because I'd have gone up there. I hadn't fished con that much beforehand. I'd have gone up there, and that's where the bit of local knowledge helped. I would have stuck with my size 10. Yeah, my size 10s. So, and it's a bit like what I said to you as well about hard and fast rules. Don't be afraid to change them.
No, absolutely, yeah. You got to do something. If you're not catching, you got to do something. But a point you just made there, and you made it before as well, is a guide, having local knowledge, and we recommend that on the rivers too. Most of our other guests on the show have recommended that all along, is that, if you want to learn, you're going to learn so much from YouTube, you're going to learn so much from shows like this, but you're not going to learn it like booking a good guide, someone like yourself on the locks. Get into a boat with him, spend a day with him, or on the river, whatever it may be, and learn firsthand and get that local knowledge of how to dry fly fish or whatever it is your fancy is.
Well, I really think it's worth it. Like, to be honest, I can say it myself anyway, because like even when I went to New Zealand a couple of years ago, I got a guide, because I'd have been lost without it.
Right.
I'd been lost without it. But I know, look, if you come to the west, and you get a guide, you sit in the boat, you have nothing else to worry about.
Yeah.
You're not worried about, oh geez, I have to bring an engine, you just sit in the boat and you enjoy
your days fishing. Yeah.
Enjoy your days fishing.
And learn.
And look, all the guides here, they're just itching for you to catch fish.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And you've guided. We were talking beforehand, Tom, and you're doing a standing amount of guiding over 100 days a year on average. Take COVID out of the equation, of course. But like, as one of the top guides over in the West, like, you obviously meet and see an awful lot of anglers throughout the year. Just not picking anyone's faults or problems, but what would be some of the most common faults or issues you would see when anglers are fishing the dries, when they're out and you're saying, right, lads, it's dries today because the trout rising, and you're sitting in the boat and you're going, if I only had that rod, I would be whacking them out of it.
Yeah.
So what's some of the common things now? And a lot of these things I'm probably going to say, well, that's me. But
no names now. It's okay. I won't give any names now. I actually.
What's some of the common things that you would see? Because in order to be, it's like any game, be it your profession, your sport, your whatever it is you work at. Professionalism is being able to take criticism and improving that criticism. So what's some of the really common faults that anglers are making or doing that really?
Okay. Well, I leave aside anything with the equipment because that can always be sort of rectified at the water, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, you'd be surprised, the equipment could be well out. Leave that out. The couple of the main problems you'd have with lads on the dries, I touched on both of them. First one, and it's the biggest problem, is striking too quick.
Okay. Right.
Really.
Getting excited.
I have a diary there I keep a diary, a fishing diary, and this is back from the 90s. And one lad that I know well, he missed the first 10 fish that came to him.
Holy
and
moly.
He pulled the fly out of every fish's mouth.
Wow.
Yeah. So so way too quick. And I think if you've come from fishing wets as well, that's kind of there with you.
Right.
To pull.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Next one then is fishing too long a line. I said that as well. And the problem there is, like, you still get the same amount of takes. You may even get more takes. All right. And somebody will argue, well, I'm further away from the boat, it's less likely to see the boat. Now I'll counter argue because the boat is drifting. You're coming up onto the fish.
You're going to get there anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, all right. If it's flat calm, then yes, you do have to fish a longer line. You must get further from the boat. But we just talk about standard lock style fishing from a drifting boat. We set up the drift.
Yeah.
So even if you are raising more, they're more difficult to hook. It's harder to hook a fish at 25 meters. I'm back to the metric system again. It's harder to hook a fish at 25 meters than it is at 10. So, it's a lot easier. You've less line. You're more in control. You could have a huge amount of slack out at 25 meters. Another thing at 25 meters, you can actually have no slack right at that stage. You could just straighten your line at that stage, just at the time it takes, and ping. You've less control. Yeah. So with the shorter length of line, you're far more in control, in a far better position to set a hook. In my mind, they're the two biggest problems.
Right.
And once you overcome them, casting too far a line is no problem.
Yeah.
Striking too quick.
That's practice, Tom. That's practice. And I would be definitely, if we were in a boat, sitting in a boat right now and we're fishing, you would be saying, Peter, will you just slow down? Because that comes from river. To sharpen up. But like
do you know what I tell you to do, actually?
Lock style dry fly, I know straight away.
Do you know what I tell you to do? Are you right-handed?
I am.
Yeah, well, what I'd say is cast out and put the rod into your left hand.
All right, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because your reactions aren't as quick.
Yeah.
All right.
Very
it has
good.
worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant point. Yeah, brilliant point. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. So
there you are.
I have to try that next. Hopefully, next year we get a watch. I haven't been on a lake in 2 years. I've been lake in over 2 years.
I know.
I'll be trying that when I get out. Hopefully next year somewhere along the way. Unfortunately, here in Kilkenny, we've no locks. We're not as lucky as you guys. We're very lucky.
Yeah, we're saying that we're on.
We're not lucky with our lock fishing. We can't have it all, I suppose. But
you've some definitely on the card, beautiful river stuff there. So
Asher, we have. It's fabulous, and it's great to have it. And have that wild trout fishing right in your doorstep. Same as yourself, Tom. Sure, it's just lovely. Yeah, becomes part of your house. Yeah. So, just before we finish up, we've asked all our other people that were on the show with us over the last 2 seasons. What would be some of your top tips? And you've probably covered a lot of them as well, but what would be some of your top tips for effective dry fly fishing on the locks? Thinking about it in general, what's your top tips? What would the top?
Okay, the two that I just said there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I leave out equipment. Won't get bogged down with equipment.
Yeah.
Leave that out. Less. How will I put it? I'm trying to get the right words. Basically, put it simple. Don't leave your flies as long on the water.
Okay.
Okay. And fan more.
Right.
Okay. Cover more water. Don't always.
How many casts are you putting in a fan, Tom? If you're taking to draw the imaginary line down the boat between you and your partner, and you can work your whole way around to the right, how many casts are you in a fan? Kind of 4 or 5?
I generally have 3.
3.
Right?
Okay.
3. One slightly to the middle, or if the guy in the boat with me isn't looking over in his water. Oh, no, that's a joke. Right. Right.
The wind is just twisting the boat. Like,
there. Yeah. And then out. Let's say I'm at the back of the boat. So three areas, right?
Right.
3 distinct directions, and you should fan most.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're covering more water. No, I've said that, and I fall back into the habit, and I find myself fishing there, and I'm just
straight down the line.
Straight down the line, and I'm chatting with somebody in the boat, and the world is wonderful, and it's great, and life is fantastic. And you know what? That's great. That's great too, because you're enjoying it. But sometimes, like if you just want to hook into something, just put it. And as I said, 15, 20 seconds in one spot, lift up, concentrate on the wind lanes. If it's, as I said, your classic wet fly day. Like, as I said, there's so many different things in it. It's different styles of wet fly fishing now. There's your nighttime, like with the nighttime mito fishing. There's your morning canis fishing. Like morning canis fishing is like it's a two-man job.
How difficult is morning canis fishing, Tom? I've never done it now.
It's difficult enough. It needs practice.
Right.
It needs practice. Ideally, it's a 2-man job with 1-man fishing.
Okay, how come?
Yeah, just let 1-man fish, point the boat towards the fish coming towards you. Try and angle. If you're on your own, having an electric engine is really handy. Yeah.
So someone's got to be on the oars, lining up.
And they're
just cruising along. They're just cruising along.
Moving along. They look like coarse fish. So, that's, so this is what, like, I touched on it there earlier on. I mean, like, how there's, even now on the loch, there's different styles of dry fly fishing.
Right.
But, still the one we do the most often now is your classic nice windy day, couple of flies hatching, be they mayflies, sedge, olives, fishing down, nice little wind lanes in front of you, fan the water in front of you, 2 flies, 3 if you want, but I think 2 looks more natural. I think I do. Definitely if there's a wind, I like 2. You get away with 2 and you don't spook the fish. I go to 1 when it's only very calm.
Right, okay. Right. Oh, very good.
You asked me about the size of the canis.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Size 20. So, that's a small little divot, yeah.
Right.
Lovely.
Yeah. So that's it. No, but I love it. Because really visual.
Yeah, it's the visual thing that really is, it's fantastic. Yeah.
And there is nothing nicer than, as I said, down that wind lane, seeing that fish take the olive, just going, and just dropping the point fly down, and just watching and just watch. No, I love it.
There's absolutely. Same on the rivers. Dry fly fishing is the purest of forms of fly fishing in general.
Yeah.
And, it is magic, especially as I think it's a real more imitative form of fly fishing. You really are trying to imitate that insect in its full glory, in its full.
Yeah, you really are.
There's so many factors there that will turn the fish away at the last crucial moment. Size of fly, you hit on them all, tip it, different things like that. That you've got to get so much right to convince that.
That's why though you have to get so much right, but when you do,
it's the best feeling in the world, isn't it?
Brilliant. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, Tom, I'm going to leave it there with you for tonight. Sticking on. Can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your vast knowledge. It's been a pleasure. If anybody wants to get in touch with Tom, Tom Sullivan or Tom Fly Fishing, I'd say is Tom's handle. TomDoc.com, is that right, Tom?
That's TomDoc.com is the website. You can get me through there, or Facebook is Tom Fly Fishing.
Really recommend a day in a boat with Tom, guys, dry fly fishing. You might have to fish left-handed, and he might be on your case a bit about not casting too far. A little story before I go. I remember one time dry fly fishing on the mayfly, or in the corrup, so to say, for the mayfly, and I fired out my dry fly, mayfly, and about 15 minutes later, I fell asleep. And I think about 2 hours later, I woke up and that fly was somewhere out the back of the boat. So I probably left it on a bit too long, I'd say. It was a slow day, but I remember putting it out, sitting there watching it. 5 minutes, no problem. Fell asleep. 2 hours later, woke up, the fly was dragging out the back. There was no way it was still the way the bottom moved in it, but I was way too long in that. But brilliant. Look at Tom. An absolute pleasure talking to you again. And thanks a million. And we're going to head back upstairs now, folks, do another couple of little dry fly frees before we head off. So once again, thanks very much, Tom.
That's great,
Sullivan.
Peter.
And
listen, thanks very much. And Peter, happy Christmas to you.
Same to yourself and all yours, Tom.
Okay. Cheers. Thanks.
So there we have, folks, an interview with the man himself, Mr. Tom Sullivan. What an interview that was. Fantastic depth of knowledge on lock style dry fly. You know, he's just exceptional is all we can say. Lovely guy, pure gentleman, and great to have Tom on with us here. I'm just going to move the camera here a bit, folks, to get ready for the next segment of our fly tying session. But yeah, thanks a million, Tom. Brilliant to have you on with the show with us tonight. If anyone wants to ever head out on a day with Tom, which I thoroughly recommend, www.tomdoc.com, I think is his handle. Where have I got it wrote down here? So it's tomdoc.com. Check him out. I put it up in the comments there. I know I've booked in my duck fly day for next year already. So check him out. Thanks a million, Tom, once again for coming on with us here tonight. And thanks to everyone for all their comments. Absolutely, Desmond, pure enthusiasm. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, David. Thanks, Sorka. Thanks, Stephen. Great information there. And that's great that these guys will come on. I'd likewise to our earlier flight here, George McGrath. Great having guests on with us tonight. So we're going to rock on, folks. We're a little bit over time tonight. Oh, hit that. A little bit over time tonight, but we're going to do, there's a mayfly I want to tie for you. It's dry fly night, and I really want to get this one done for you tonight. So I hope you stick with us for another few minutes. So in the vise here, I've got a stonefo tool. It's a detached body stonefo tool. If anyone's ever seen that before, really, really good little tool. And this is part of our trivia quiz tonight. So someone can win one of these tools and win a couple of other nice prizes. We got a nice fly box, and we got a nice €20 Pescari fly voucher here on offer for tonight. So all you got to do is answer the question. So Graham Lanigan, have you got all the Google pages open? I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3 to get them all open. I'm going to ask a question. Okay, so my favorite lock style fly is the Invicta. It is a magnificent fly, the original Invicta. Absolutely catches throat everywhere. Okay, so a man by the names of James Ogden invented that fly over 100 years ago. Okay, now what I want to know is the name of James's book. He wrote a book in 1879, and I want to know the name of that book. First person up on the stream. Now, by the way, folks, it's streamed all over the place. So on my stream, the first person up wins the prize of all those lovely goodies, and it'll be sent out from Monday morning. So James Ogden, Ogden, is the person that came up with the Invicta. And I want to know what is the name of his book, published in 1879. First person wins all those prizes. Don't forget, you could be in to win all the flies tonight and the flies I use for practice. If you like and share or comment on our stream tonight, I'm going to crack on here trying to fly. So I will come back later on and watch see who is the first winner if I don't spot it here. Okay, so I got a little bit of tinted mayfly tails. This is a detached body mayfly tail. Little bit of a Darren, Susan. I think, hang on, there was someone in before Susan. I'm not going to get wrapped up in that. I'm actually going to keep tying, folks, because it's getting late. Okay, the wife's downstairs, and it is Christmas week after all, right? So I really want this fly. So this is a lovely little mayfly tail. You can see a little bit of barn there. We're gonna look back on those comments later on, and see. So this tinted mayfly tails. Going to add in a little piece of this onto our tool. So I've attached my Kevlar thread already, folks. And what I've done is I've left a long tag piece here. I haven't cut off that waist. I've left that long tag piece, and I've got to put it back here in the coil that's on those tools. Okay, very important you don't cut that off. And I'm going to add this tail in here on top. Make sure it's in the correct position. I want a nice long tail on this. So this is a detached mayfly body, spent, that I tied for a person, an angler 2 years ago. I think there's 2 seasons, possibly 3. And we had great success on it, and I've been tying it ever since. Lots of good guesses coming in, and great to see everyone guessing. Going to whip finish off that there, a couple of turns of whip finish, and I'm going to take away that thread. Okay, so now I'm going to add in my foam. So what I've basically done is took a piece of tan foam here, as you can see, and I've tapered it down on both sides. Done a little bit of prep work where there was watch from Tom, and you can see the little hole that I've put in the middle. Okay, so I've got a nice heavy darning needle here, and I've prepped that hole already. Okay, and that just helps it to get in over the bar. That I'm going to move the camera around again and just try and get this whole thing. It's after doing all them little dries, it's I might have to do a little bit of refocusing for this one, folks. But bear with me for a second, I won't be long. That's a great comments coming in, lots of Googling going on. I'd say probably the best thing I can do now is just refocus that now for 2 seconds, and then we'll be ready to go for this entire fly. Here we go. Camera throw and focus. Of course, I'm doing everything on my own here. I have no producer to do all this, so I have to do it all on my own. So sometimes I have to stop and let me see if that works. That certainly didn't work. Right, bear with me 1 second there, folks. Sorry about the little mix-up there with Tom and George. I actually was just tidying up my last fly, and I actually accidentally hit a button. There we go. We're pretty good now. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so got my tail in there, lovely, sticking out the back. Got my Kevlar, got my tag end still there, and now we're going to put in our piece of foam. Okay, so it's attached body, so we got to make this first before we put on the hook. Okay, so I've already put in a little bit of a pilot hole there with and we got it. No, it didn't work, and I'm actually kind of half glad that didn't, because if that doesn't work, there's only one thing you do, folks: take it off. Okay, where's my Kevlar? Here we go. So I'm going to add in that Kevlar again. So the Kevlar wasn't tight enough. You got to try and find the right tension here. You don't want it too tight, because if it's too tight later on in the fly, you won't be actually able to take it back off before we're ready to mount it onto the hook. Okay, so doing that little bit of prep work while I was showing that interview with Tom didn't help. I thought I was trying to get ahead. Just left my tag in on out the back, and I got my bit of Kevlar, and now I'll go back to my tails, as you can see here. You're very welcome, Kieran. Hope everyone's enjoyed the show. We're a little bit later tonight than we had planned to be, but I knew with that Tom interview that it needed to all go up at the one time. And I hope everyone enjoyed it, and enjoyed our other guest, George McGrath. We will be back here live, not next Saturday night, because next Saturday night is Christmas night, so I certainly won't be live here next Saturday night, but we'll be live here next Wednesday, or Wednesday week, should I say, Wednesday the 29th, for our Christmas special. Okay, and we got some absolutely amazing stuff lined up for you that night. Great giveaways, the whole lot. I will go back on tonight's comments and figure out who is the winner of tonight's giveaway, and I'll let you know tomorrow morning. If you want to win the flies for tonight, well then you can by just liking, sharing, or commenting on our post. So now I'll try this time, and there we go, perfect. Okay, so you see the way I pull it down over tail, the foam will stay off down the back end. We now have to go back to our Kevlar, We add in our Kevlar again, good tie in. This time you don't have to leave a tag end. Okay, cut this one off. We're going to add in 2 pieces of brown Swiss straw. Okay, so we all know the raffia. Raffia is a material that's used to tie in. It's a real natural material for daddy long legs, mayfly bloodies. It's off the skin of a palm tree, and it's really effective. You've got to moisten it before you use it. We don't have to moisten the Swiss straw, which is a substitute. Okay, so we tie in 2 sections of that. We will finish it again. Just in overalls, pull those out the back. And then tighten up. Okay, again, cut off. A few stages in this fly, folks, but trust me, it's worth it. Okay, pull your foam back up. Be gentle pulling that foam back up there. Take in your Kevlar again. And attach it in. This time, leave the tag end on. So we've got 2 tag ends sticking out the back. That's going to be the security of this fly. Okay, move the foam up along and move the Kevlar up to where you would have added in the raffia. Make sure everything's in position and nothing got twisted, as you seen when I was tying back up that. There we go. It was a loop over there. So our tail out the back, we got our 2 brown raffias out either side. We got our 2 tag ends sticking down into our spring. And now we're going to take our foam and we're going to wrap it around that detached body tool, like so. Two turns is enough. Take the brown raffia, bring 1 down either side. Make sure all the turns go directly in the top of the previous turns. Lovely. Then come back up, pull back those 2, and get your thread image back onto the tool on 2 turns, and complete the same process again and again until we get down and we've formed our detached body. Bring the thread back up. There's only so much commentary I can put on something like this that's fairly painful. You just take your time, work it out nice and slow, don't rush it. There is no way, folks, to do this fast. Okay, just take your time, do the foam first, don't do the foam and the raffia at the same time. Trust me, I've tried it. It doesn't work out. Okay, you'll get so far and then you'll have to go back. Do the foam first, then do the raffia. Back up, completing the same process every time. We got a nice segmented body on that. Up, in over top. 1 more should do us okay. That last turn, actually, I'm going to go back 1 turn if you don't mind. That last piece of raffia wasn't enough to the side and it's creeping up on top, so take it back and get it in position. There we go. We're going to chance it after 1 more. Damn. Forgot a section. Got to go back 1 step. for adding the second piece of raffia. Lots of steps this one. Just keeping those tag ends back here out of the way. They've kind of slipped out. There we go. We're getting there now, folks. This is the slowest part of this fly, is getting your body segmented well, making sure proportions are correct. It's worth it, trust me. I'll do one more, and then I think I have enough to complete the fly. Tie my raffia down either side. Yeah, that's okay. So you can see we have nice segmentation coming up across there. A little bit in the middle I'm not happiest about, but it's okay. It's grand. All right. Take my whip finish, and I'm going to just get a whip finish in there for a second. Don't pull too hard in the Kevlar. You could cut straight through that foam. Tie it off. Take up some brown UTC thread. And we're going to start right there at the top. Tie it in. One whip finish. You want a little bit of a brown tip. So I think it's the third one. It's the third one. There was a slipper thread, and let's look at. I never pretend to be perfect. So if you find it slipping out like that, you can leave in your tag. Get your whip finish turned on. Don't worry, we're going to straighten this whole thing up now in a few moments. I just want the colour. I can manipulate it on in a second. And you can ask, why didn't I use the brown thread first? For all the whip finishing and the strength of this fly, if we use the brown UTC thread, that detached body will not be strong enough. Okay, so that's why we use Kevlar. And you'll see in a moment when we go to mount it what I mean. Everything's in place. And make us try way through this tedious enough body. And I'm rushing it because I know it's late and everyone wants to go to bed. Or those that have come home from the bar. Of course, from next week will be 8 o'clock close. There we go. Okay. Jim Euler, absolutely, absolutely. But you know, I'm kind of rushing it. But trust me, folks. So what I got here is a little bit of lacquer by Tommy Fly and little needle on it, and we got to put a little bit of lacquer on it. Now, normally I would prepare all these and have them drying and have them nice and tidy, but so we're doing a little bit of a rush just to give you the general principles of how to tie this body. Okay, you can take your time on it yourselves and get it nice and tasty looking, but has a very nice slim segmented body to it. What you do once it's lacquered, you got your two tag ends, you got your foam, get the fingers in on the tool we just used and slide the whole thing straight off. Okay, don't cut anything off for the moment. Everything is needed there. I'd normally give it a roll on the table or the desk beside me, but there we can see we have our nice Detached body. Take out that tool, which is up for grabs tonight. Someone's going to win that tonight. Take out that tool, add in a size 12, not a size 10, size 12 B100 Camazan. Going to lash this on now, folks, and get this fly finished for you. Really wanted to show you this one tonight. This was a fly that I tried 2 years ago, and it was an absolute cracker of a fly. Go down about a quarter of the way down the hook. You want at least, when you're doing something like this, I like at least 3 layers of underthread to make sure a good body, make sure nothing's going to really twist on me. Sometimes I'll even use a bit of Zappa Gap to give that a bit of a seal, but we are pushing through here. Okay, so I'm going to trim just a little bit of that out of my way. Now, this core here is super important. This core of Kevlar, these 2 Kevlar pieces are super important. So what we're going to start pulling those. Okay, and they're going to keep pulling and pulling fine, but I'm watching that tail. As soon as that tail tightens up, I know everything right there now. Everything now is tight. Okay, so when I tie it in, I'm really concentrating on that core. So I put my detached body in position. I get the 2 pieces of brown raffia out of the way by folding them back, and I start with the thread, or with the foam, should I say. Okay, a couple of turns there on the foam, just to get the body in place for myself. Now, I'm sorry, but the camera's moved. Just to get the body in place for myself. And a bit awkwardly now, I'll fold the foam out of the way and I'll trap in that Kevlar. And that is the core of that fly. Okay, so that's to keep the detached body in position. And if a couple of throw take it, it's not going to fall apart on you. A little bit awkward, folks, but well worth patience. Couple of turns in. Once you're as well secure, of course Kevlar's quite hard to cut. Take it out of the way. Secure it in. Once you got that well secured in, then I want you to taper back that foam. Take out those large chunks. Cut away some of the corners. And really securing that foam as well. Like so. Lovely. Is that okay now, Robbie? I got my head here stuck down. It's kind of hard sometimes when I'm doing a fly like this and I'm trying to tie it really fast. I can't watch the camera, the comments and all that kind of stuff. So what I got here is a little bit of yarn, I suppose polypropylene yarn. I'm going to snip off a little bit of that, and we're going to use this for our spent wings. Okay. Actually, before I do, just when we tied off that foam on that last piece of foam, we can now take our raffia one side. This also helps strengthen this fly, and take the raffia on the other side. And you can see as I pull it and twist it, it gives it that extra little bit of position. Oops, let that one slip. Secure them in. That body's going nowhere. Okay, now I'll go back to my little bit of floating yarn. Okay, I've got about 2 inches off here. And I'm going to add that in across the hook. Figure of 8 either side, so we got it looking like so. I will, Elaine. I will. It will be up tomorrow. It will be up tomorrow. Thanks, Kevin. I will, Sarah. I will. Sorker should I say. There will be a hackathon in a moment. Okay, we take another little bit of that polypropylene yarn, and what we do is we should be adding in a bit of pink. And guess what, folks? I forgot the pink. Okay, so it should be mixed in with a little bit of pink. Okay, so there should be a pink on top, and there should be white underneath. But I'm not going to go looking for it now. Okay, we're going to just continue the process. So we're going to form a cross on the top of this fly, as you can see. Okay, there should be a little bit of pink or a little bit of orange in there, as Tom Sullivan was talking about the visibility, and that's the reason partly the reason why we invented it, where we came up with this fly, is the person that wanted it wanted to be able to see it, have that real hot spot on top, and get it positioned on top. Get your thread hanging down, okay? I'm just going to remount that hook there for a second, just give it a slight twist. Okay, so you know the two are on top, you know the two are on the side. Take the two on the side and bring them down below the hook for this section of the pattern and attach them to hacker pliers. Keeps them down out of the way. So now we want to form a post. Stare down out of the way, and now we're going to form a post. Again, same motion here. But in your own time, take your time. Get a nice strong post formed there. There we go. Turn back on the head. Grant. And out the back. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of tan rabbit hair dubbing here just to bring that detached body back into the fly. And a little bit of tan on here. Just to marry those colours in. And make that body become real part of that fly. Watch the hacker pliers. Cover up all that groundwork you would have done previously. And create a nice little bubble of dubbing there, as you can see. Bring the thread to the forward side of that. Then we take a little bit of grizzle hackle, and we're going to add that in there then. We're going to tidy it up our post, secure that up there out of the way. Once that's secure, take away tidy up a little bit of that waste. Now, I'm still trying to think what's next. Okay, I actually have notes here of what comes next. Okay. So what we're going to do now is add in a dubbing brush. Okay, so take your Kevlar or whatever thread you're using, massage it out, and split it. We're going to add a bit of fox squirrel and spectra, same as we did earlier on for our caddis. And now we're going to give that a bit of a spin. Just create a bit of a dubbing brush. No, Graham. No. And I'm rushing this. If I was really taking my time, folks, and I thought I'd have enough time tonight, you know, I thought, I'll get through the first two flies. But then by the time you're chatting and telling us all about things and talking about trivia and everything else, and no, Graham. No, and I'm not happy with this at all, but it will finish fine. I'll get the picture across to you. Now, what we got to do is we got to sort out, before we wrap on that, we got to sort out our spent wings, okay? Get them out to either side. And this is where the pink comes in handy, or your orange, because you can differentiate between the colours. Bring them all up together. And now you got to wrap that dubbing brush, starting from the front, working your way around the back. And one of those wings are just got out of place. Working your way around the back. And getting it all like so. Nope. There we go. Up to the eye of that hook. Okay. Get your thread into the hook. That's what I love about the Kevlar. When you're in a real tight space, you can get the Kevlar into that little narrow space and then give it a real pull, and it just puts everything into that locked position. Okay, using your hackle now. So our Kevlar is now at the front. We've got our post up sticking straight up, and now we move those two spent wings into either side. Okay, and we take our Kevlar. Now, another thing we can do here is put back on our hackle pliers, bring the two spent wings back down for a moment. Hackle pliers, and let the weight of the hackle pliers take them out of the way. And just do a clink hammer hackle style here on this post that we tied previously. Release the hackle pliers and take those two wings to either side. Prop them up and get at least one, if not two turns directly under those hackles to support them. Or directly under those wings to give them a little support. Okay. Once you got in there, as we've talked about before, doing clink hammers, get the thread down on the main stem of the hackle and let it slip in there into that eye. Didn't do that time. And then perfect. Slipped in that time. Two turns, put a bit of pressure on that thread. Make sure that's well positioned or stuck in there. And get your scissors, which is lost here in front of me. You will not, James. But now in all fairness, folks, I'm rushing. So once I've got it trimmed off, take everything and pull it back. Get that Kevlar in there over the eye. Make sure it's well secure. Couple of turns. And again, pull it back. So you can see why I'm using the Kevlar, folks. A lot of pressure, a lot of tension going on that mayfly as we're working through that head. Okay. Take your main post. We should have a little bit of pink, a little bit of orange in it. Okay, it doesn't have it right now, but it should be really different. Really, it should really be, you know, stand out from the two wings. We're going to cut that just above there, and that's your cider. That's your cider. Okay, you can see what I'm doing here. So that whole thing up there should be your cider, and it should be a different color, and it really will stick out to you. Okay, take your wings, pull them up, and they should be at least 1/4 of an inch, if not more, longer than your kind of post. So cut them both the same length, pull them up, cut them both the same length. So when you look up underneath, you've got your spent wings. Start tidying up. Just tease them out a little bit. Give them a little bit of a taper look. By trimming off the outer edges. Not 100%, folks. A little bit to be done with it, but you can get the gist. Get the gist. A little bit of a rush job, but you can get the gist of what we're trying to do with the clink and the spent hackles, spent wings. But there we have it, folks. That's another night over. Another Saturday night. The last Saturday night of December. Because we'll, thanks very much, everyone. Because we're not going to be back on next Saturday night because it's Christmas night. We will be back on the 29th for our Christmas special. We got a great show lined up for you. We got massive giveaways. You don't want to miss it. So make sure you tune in for that one. We'll put some posts up beforehand. Thanks so much to everyone for watching. Don't forget, if you want any fly tying or fly fishing gear, give us a shout here at www.scaryfly.com. Super huge thanks to George McGrath and Tom Sullivan for the contributions tonight. Hope everyone enjoyed it. But other than that, folks, enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. Enjoy your weekend. And most of all, have a merry and very happy and safe Christmas with you and your family. Okay? Good night, everyone. And I will talk to you all over the Christmas period. Looking forward to catching up for everyone to hear all the stories everyone got over Christmas. And see you all real soon. Good night, everybody.